For more on all this, let's bring in Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway. She joins us now live from the White House. Hey, Kellyanne, good morning.
Good morning, Sandra.
Well, we'll look forward to the briefing. That's going to be happening at 2 o'clock Eastern time today with Kayleigh McEnany. But meanwhile, to Michael Flynn and what happens next with this. We heard the president talking about a possible pardon. He's now moved to saying that he would even consider bringing Flynn back, saying he's essentially exonerated. Is the president really considering that, Kellyanne?
Well, the president stated very clearly yesterday, this is the first time he's been asked that. I think the president is more likely to bring Michael Flynn to the Oval Office or to the White House as his guest and to review what has happened to Michael Flynn, which should have a chilling effect on every American, Sandra and Ed, because if it can happen to the president's newly installed national security advisor, it can happen to you, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, the fix was in. Peter Strzok and his co-sexter, texter, Lisa Page, and the whole lot of them at the upper echelon of the FBI, misrepresenting the rank-and-file 35,000 wonderful FBI agents across this country and world that do a fabulous job on behalf of each of us, and God bless each of them. But Peter Strzok wasn't just doing evil in the 2016 campaign cycle to try to have that insurance policy, making fun of the smelly Walmart, Trump voters, castigating people. He continued doing that bidding after President Trump was elected and into our first days here at the White House. Look, if Peter Strzok had something important to say about General Flynn, let's consider that he thought he was an existential threat, a real national security threat. He could have come forward and said that. That isn't the purpose of this inquisition of Michael Flynn. You see the notes. You see them saying, don't end Crossfire Razor. Keep it going. Why? To harass and embarrass a general who had served with distinction for over 3 decades. I would remind everybody that President Obama told President-elect Donald Trump he had, quote, 2 things to worry about: North Korea and Michael Flynn. Folks, that's just weird on its face. You got to worry about a nuclear-capable dictator in North Korea, and you got to worry about a general of 37 years who served in the Obama administration. So people should look at this for what it is. Taxpayers funded this nonsense. And to think that 4 days into our administration, they're coming into the White House not to be helpful to the incoming administration, the National Security Advisor, and by extension helpful to you, the American people, and our new presidency, but to try to trip him up, get him, quote, fired, or get him to lie. And that is a disgrace, and everybody, as the president has said, should be concerned about that, regardless of your political affiliation.
So, Kellyanne, just to finish up on that point, with the president considering a pardon, even bringing Flynn back, saying he's been essentially exonerated, Mike Pence, the vice president, weighed in as well, saying that he's more inclined to believe that Flynn unintentionally lied. So what can you tell us, and we hear you passionately talking about what might be the next steps on the part of the White House as far as a decision being made in a timeline, Kellyanne?
It was a very important statement by Vice President Pence, because everyone will recall when Michael Flynn left the White House on February 13th or 14th, a month into our presidency, it was because he had not been candid with the vice president about his meetings with the Russian ambassador, I believe. And so, and the vice president, others of us had said that he hadn't met with them or whatnot. But now the vice president's rethinking this, recognizing that people were setting Michael Flynn up. It was a total setup. And I want to repeat, not in the bowels of some basement of some office building or in the dead of night somewhere in some movie. In the White House during transition, and then here on taxpayer dollars by people who had an incredible amount of power. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't abuse your power as a government official just because you don't like who the president is, because you didn't vote for him, you didn't want him, and most importantly, Sandra and Ed, you didn't expect him to get elected, which is what's really rankled so many people. So we'll see what the president says. But look, it's also that Michael, I don't know what the logistics are. I'm a fully recovered attorney, haven't practiced in years. I'm a happy person. So Michael Flynn maybe could withdraw his guilty plea. I don't know what the logistics of that are, but clearly this man has been treated unfairly, was pushed out of a job early on, and to have people from the previous administration that served with Michael Flynn trying to get to the president and get and make our first couple weeks unsuccessful through the new national security advisor, rather than help him understand all the hot spots and the danger around this world. And I think Joe Biden should be asked all the questions you're asking me.
All right.
If he wants to be president again, he should be asked, why are these Obama-Biden officials doing this, and does he agree with that?
Absolutely. We're going to get to Joe Biden in one moment, I promise, Kellyanne. In the meantime, I want to talk coronavirus and China. Here's what the president said yesterday about the Wuhan lab. Watch.
Have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I think that the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves, because they're like the public relations agency for China.
So let's just clear this up. The president says to John Roberts he has confidence that this did begin in that lab, but his own director of national intelligence put out that statement yesterday that John referenced in his question that said the intelligence community does not know anything yet. They're just trying to determine that. So does the president know something that the DNI does not?
Well, perhaps, but remember, the president also said a number of other things in response to similar questions in that same seniors elderly American event yesterday, which was fantastic. He also said, I can't tell you that, to respond to a different question from a different reporter from a different network. He also said that's why it's being investigated, it's being looked into. But either way, the president said he's not happy with what he does see and know about the origins of this virus in China and China's lack of transparency, and then the WHO's lack of transparency about it being able to spread from human to human. That I think as a layperson, I called it a global pandemic before the WHO did. And they said it couldn't spread, it was fine, it was contained, don't worry about it. And again, taxpayers, listen up. You pay for that misinformation. You pay for that gaslighting. You pay for them to be the public relations arm of China. China paid 10% of what our nation has paid just over the last 2 years. We've paid over $800 million in U.S. taxpayer money to the WHO, hoping that a minor return on our investment, Sandra Ned, would be the truth when it comes to this virus. And the president yesterday said death and destruction all around us. That event should be amplified. We talked about everything we've been doing at the nursing homes, the VA, giving PPE now, personal protective equipment, to all 15,400 nursing homes across this country.
Absolutely.
Prophylactically, that are Medicare or Medicaid approved.
Big issue indeed. I'm glad you raised it. I want to move on, though, because you mentioned Joe Biden a moment ago. The news this morning is that he's now on camera denying that there was a sexual assault of Tara Reade. I want to give you a chance to respond to that in this way. A, Joe Biden in 2018, during the Kavanaugh days, said you should believe women. And B, what should happen next in terms of the University of Delaware and the National Archives and the records?
This one's not a close call, and I think it's why you see some Democrats and their co-agents in some of the mainstream media publications calling for investigation. Unseal the records. Let us go through them. You should unseal them anyway if you want to run for president. And I have two things to say to the feminists and the left. Believe all women means all women, not just based on who they are, what their station in life is, whether they have a college degree, if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or not registered to vote. It doesn't matter. When you said believe all women, I saw no footnotes, no asterisks. Number two, they also said something that I personally know is very important to say, which is if you are squelching the confidence of women coming forward and telling their story of sexual assault allegations, then you're silencing thousands, if not millions, of more women. So it's very difficult, as the feminist said at the time, very difficult for women to come forward. So if it's open and shut now because Joe Biden says it's not true, you are silencing so many more women. And folks, this is different. Sandra, this is different now in our culture, thank God, than it was back when Tara Reade said Joe Biden allegedly assaulted her. And go read what she actually says happened. It is graphic and it is disgusting and it involves penetration. So everybody needs to read that. It's different now. Women feel more free to come forward. They feel that they can talk to law enforcement. And there is corroborating evidence in this way. Corroboration, she did tell people contemporaneously. Neighbors knew. Her mother called into Larry King on CNN. She told other people. But we didn't have the apparatus that we have now where you can go and file a complaint and do these different things. I think someone like Kirsten Gillibrand, senator from New York, who unsuccessfully ran for president on, quote, women's empowerment, she got rid of Al Franken, a Democratic colleague, on I would say less than this, and didn't give him, didn't ask him what he thought. And so I think they're really twisting themselves around. But believe all women means all women. You don't get to choose. And when they say Joe Biden, when you have Nancy Pelosi and Amy Klobuchar and these other people covering for him, saying, well, I know Joe Biden, nobody else has said that, and he's great for women. Folks, being for abortion in the 9th month does not make you great for all women. Okay. Being great for women means that you let them have their say. I want to hear from this woman.
All right. Kellyanne Conway, we certainly appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.